We have got a great day today. We had an awesome reboot kickstart yesterday as a day one. We had excellent speakers talking about various aspects of how to bring about effective change in order to manage the COVID-19 crisis. And in the same, you can say, thought process, we are beginning today at our day two. And it's my honor and I will say privilege to invite the next speaker or the first speaker of the day, who is also the brain behind the entire creation and articulation of Reboot 2020. She is none other than Lily Lau. She's a master trainer, she's a speaker, she's a facilitator, and a generation expert. She has got a phenomenal experience of last 15 years of training and facilitation experience in the area of culture, diversity, bridging generational gap, communication, interpersonal skills, and corporate culture transformation. So she brought an awesome value-added experience with her. She's the certified master trainer under Arthur Karmazi for Directive Communication Psychology, and she's been awarded for being the best performing international partner and the best DC master trainer by Directive Communication International and the culture guru Arthur Karmazi. She would be speaking today for all the audience who are joining us now on the area of, as I mentioned earlier, post-pandemic impact at the workplace by each generation. And I think each generation is getting affected by the COVID crisis in a very, very unique manner. And I think she is going to highlight that unique aspect of how the baby boomers are adapting and reacting to the new changes in the workplace vis-a-vis the Gen Z. And because of the entire COVID-19 thing, there is a change in the workplace as well. So she will be touching upon all those elements, which is going to be awesome in terms of learning, in terms of understanding. So for the audience and the participants, what would the key takeaways? So if I have to highlight three key takeaways from her session, number one would be overview and characteristics of baby boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, and Gen Z. How each generation is going to react towards the new normal working environment, and what would be the HR challenges in dealing with the new normal work. So with that thought, I'm inviting the first speaker of the day two of Reboot 2020, Lily.
Thank you,
Hi,
Dr.
Lily.
Steve. Yes, thank you for the fantastic introduction of me. Wow, it's like, oh, I just feel like I'm like flying on cloud nine now. Yeah.
Have an awesome session, Lily.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So we shall start.
Yeah, you can start, but just wanted to check you would be taking question in the beginning or in between or at the end from the audience,
okay,
so that I can accordingly bring in.
Okay, let me finish my PowerPoint slides and then we will take it at the end. I think it will be neater in that sense. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Lily. All the best.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on which country, wherever you are in different time zone. I will certainly very, very much welcome you to this session that I'm going to share in the next 45 minutes. Okay, let me share my screen. I assume that you all can see my screen. Now, what we are going to go through is to find out what is the impact at the workplace by each generation. And just to give you a little bit of background, I am somebody who have taken, out of my passion and interest to do some study more in depth on the generation. And in specific, it is about Malaysian generation. So for today, I will share quite a fair bit in the context of Malaysian generation, although in general, you can still use the knowledge and information for your to be used as a reference. But however, for each country, what is needed is that they need to have their own study in each generation. Okay, now all of us have agreed, right? We are impacted by the COVID, and everything has changed, and it changed almost overnight. The key point here is overnight, and it is so drastic that, and I mean, now we are in June. Today we are in the June third week. Things has mellowed down a bit, and people are able to take it. But I can tell you, I'm in Malaysia. When our Malaysian government announced the lockdown on March 18, I was fretting. I didn't know what's going to happen, and I wasn't sure what has to be done or what needs to be done. But all I need to know, all I knew at that point was that everything has to be cancelled. I have 8 days of training all lined up, and my client called me, said, Lily, we have to cancel, and no choice. Everything has to be cancelled. And it was like overnight, I didn't know what to do. And I was lost. Okay? Then slowly, of course, what happened to the workplace? Everybody is moved to work from home. Right? And even then, in the first 2-3 weeks, everyone was lost. Things was messy. HR didn't know how to respond. There wasn't time to plan who is going to do what. And you just have to be on your own, log in, and just work. And it was so different that I can assure you, everybody just wasn't sure what's happening, and things was just so messy, right? And how about the IT division of your company? Were you prepared? Were you ready? Right? Was your network, everything strong enough? Are your staff able to log in from home? Well, these were the issues that the company faced. And I know there are still companies in Malaysia, right? The staff are not allowed to log in into their company emails from home. So literally, some of the staff, they just stay at home and they can't even work. Yes, I knew some people who are like that. They can't even log in. And when I communicated with them, they told me, Lily, please send me to my personal email. I can't log into my company's email. Right. So that means obviously there were a lot of companies who wasn't even prepared for that. And that's it. Operation just stopped. Factory just shut down and everything just stopped, right? And after that, what happened? Because of the virus that is so contagious, instead of having more humans to work, right? There are some industries you can replace them with robots, right? AI, right? And for example, restaurants, you don't need to hire waiter and waitresses. You can just buy robots, right? So again, right, these are the changes that just happen within a very short time of 3 months, which if you have just looked at history, when you look at the changes, things were gradual, but this round, it was so sharp. And the question here is that, do you agree with me that the future workplace is already here? The question here is, are you ready? Is that those people who are ready, good. They just take it on and continue with the work. Those people who are not ready, that's where in the last 3 months, things has been terrible, right? So what I'm going to go through with you, what is the impact given the scenario that I've described just now? So many changes, so many things that's happening. Everybody was in chaos, havoc, company lost direction, bosses wasn't sure what to do and all that. What is the impact at the workplace by each generation? And there are, differences in each generation. And as I said, my content here today is geared towards Malaysian generation. Right? What is the definition of generation? If you Google, for example, to find the generation, the definition of Gen Y. I guarantee you 99.9%, right? The information that you found in Google is of USA. I'm not saying it's bad, right? It's just that there are vast studies that are being done, and there are just lots of information available, right? And there are very little, in fact, when I was doing, you know, my research, right? I hardly can find information about Malaysian generation, and that created my interest to embark on this journey. And what I discovered, generation, I mean, to define generation in general is by year born. That is the simplest way. However, people who are born in the same year, but in different culture, in different countries, there are differences or variation if you want to categorize them by generation. That was something that I discovered. And also how each generation thinks or, you know, expect how their workplace should be and all that. It is also connected with the country's economic development at that point of time. And definitely, right, the individual's lifestyle, their upbringing has a strong impact on the value system, on what should be wrong and what should be right. Right? And lastly, what is the exposure level to technology? Now, this is a very important factor to define, especially Gen Y. Okay, so these are the variable factor to define your generation. So what I'm saying here is, by year born is an indication. You only need to use it as an indication when you read the description of the characteristics of each generation. You may or you may not agree. You may say that, oh, I have some of these characteristics, but some do not really talk about me. Yes, and that's why we need to look at other aspects, which is like the culture, the history, right? And the mindset and the rest of the definition. So in general, right, it is a broad definition. Okay, now in general, this is the overview of the definition by year born based on US, right? Now, let's look at the left from the traditionalist, right? If you look at them, they are already 100 years old. The youngest is 75 years old, right? And my focus is definitely not in this category because I don't think they are working anymore, and probably many of them are not alive, right? Let's look at baby boomers. The current age of baby boomers by US definition is 56 to 74, right? Those who are in the 56, they probably have a few more years to go. So these are the people who are still working, right? But those who are in the 70s, probably they are already retired, yeah? And after that, we go into Gen X, right? They are from 40s to mid-50s. And then we have Gen Y, who are mid-20s to late 30s, right? And definitely the Gen Z, who are the youngest in this category, who are up and coming right now. What I would like to say, in addition to names like baby boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, right? Let's look at the category, the boxes where they are also known as, right? Baby boomers is easy. They're also known as hippies and yuppies. Now this one, my image of hippies and yuppies are people who have afro hairstyles. Those were the days when I was still young. I see a lot of these people, and that time it was fashion. And they wear bell-bottom jeans, right? And that was that style, right? And I just remember it is people like John Lennon. And let's look at Gen X. In US, the Gen X are called latchkey children. Now, this is the point that really aroused my interest. Why Gen X is called latchkey? And I also look at myself, right? I'm born somewhere between somewhere between baby boomers and Gen X. I don't want to reveal my exact age, right? Is around that category. So what happened was I look at the description of latchkey children, and I told myself that no, I am not latched. Whereas in US, the children of Gen X are latched. So that pondered me another question. That means because our upbringing is different, we should explore further. Yeah. Okay. Then Gen Y, definitely the Gen Y is the most confusing generation because there are so many names. They have millennials, they have internet gen, Nexter, digital natives. Right now, the funny thing is that if Gen X are known as millennial, and you look at the year born, based on the US definition, they stop at 1994. They don't even pass 2000, right? So so it is interesting, of course, right? That is the definition, and they grown up, right, in through the millennials, right? That's when things were just at the beginning for them. And of course now there's a lot of focus on Gen Z now. They are called the smart gen, the apps gen, the global gen, or iGen, or screenagers, right? And they are the youngest. Now, what I would like to share with you is my next screen here. This is my personal definition where I kind of recategorize it a little bit based on the social economic development of Malaysia. Now, I do not focus on traditionalists, so I have not done anything at all. What I did was I started with baby boomers. In Malaysia, the baby boomers, just to give you a little bit of history, Malaysia got independence in 1957. So if you look at that, it was the baby boomers generation that went through our independence. That's why I call them the Merdeka baby. In Malaysia, Merdeka means independence. Yeah. And the influencing factor for them is World War II and the independence factor. And baby boomers, if you look at them, right, they are the very, very tough lot. They went through lots, right, because during the time when they were born, there was almost nothing when you talk about economy. After World War II, it was the baby boomers that created a lot of the economy. That also applies to US, right? If you look at the chart here, right, after World War II, that's when the baby boomers was growing up, fresh from, they were young in the 20s, and that's where they started with a lot of businesses and economy, right? Then you have Gen X. Now, Gen X is a very interesting lot. I call them the sandwich because in the workplace, in the company, they are literally sandwiched. Why? On top of them, we have the senior management, or the management to say, right, who are still holding the fort for the company, but they are in managerial level. However, their subordinates, most of them are Gen Y. So literally you have they are sandwiched between the two generations, baby boomers on top and Gen Y at the bottom, right? Now, looking at their age, they are from 36 to 55 now. In fact, right, they are, slowly aging in that sense, and there's a lot of changes that's going through. And the influencing factor is the industrialization. So they are the generation when they graduated and came out to work, they have seen how the country, for example, like Malaysia, was developed from an agriculture to industries. So Gen X was the generation that was highly involved in helping and contributing to the development of the industrialization of Malaysia, right? So let's move on then. We have Y. Okay, now, for me, just go back to Gen X for the year born. Based on my study, right, I extended a little bit. I do not adopt exactly the year that is of the US for Malaysia. There are some slight variation. So I will take our Malaysian Gen X will be until 1984, and our Gen Y starts from 1985. So as such, right, there is a few years differences here. Yeah. But for Gen Y, at this moment, they are between around age 20 to 35. This generation is still the very, very important generation, and they are the one, right, who is there out in the market and supporting the Gen X in the companies. Okay, the key factor that make them called the Gen Y, it is because of the technology. Because when they were growing up, technology started to materialize, and it started to go into mass production, mass market, like the laptops, from desktop to laptop, and the mobile phones came out, and it became very affordable. At that point of time, if you remember, in the 90s, we have Nokia, we have Motorola, all these brands that were there, and it was Gen Y who was growing up, right? And they were the ones who were the first to embrace the technology, and it was with excitement that when it came out. Yeah. So that is that little background that you need to appreciate in order to understand in the behaviors and characteristics of each generation. And after that, we have Gen Z, right, who are the X. We call it the X generation, right? And at this moment, most of them are still in school, although some are already coming out from the college. Now, what I've done also, I've created hybrid groups because it is very difficult to fit yourself in exactly that I'm X, I'm Y. Because when you look at that, you are a little bit here, you're a little bit there. So that's where I also have, like, Gen X boomers group, Gen XY group, and Gen YZ group. So it is a crossover, and it all depends on, your culture, your background, and all that. Okay, now let me quickly move on. So what happens is that baby boomers, when they came out, right, because of the circumstances when things were bad, they have to work very, very, very hard. And at the workplace, based on their age, they're the oldest, but with lots and lots of goodies that was based on their experience. So when this COVID came in, what happened? In fact, based on my study, they are the ones that actually transform the most. Now, at this moment, right, I take myself as an example. Arthur has been complaining that, I refuse to go into online. I refuse to, go into technology. And that was before COVID, and I agree with him. Every time when he asked me to do something, I always have reason not to. Why? Because I just want to do things the way it was, right? Which was easy for me. And when COVID came, what happened? You have to buy groceries online, you have to pay bills online, and you order, home delivery orders, and all this happen out of no choice, right? And that's where baby boomers starts to experience the benefit of technology. And they even need to communicate with their loved ones using all the conferencing apps. Now, before COVID, was it really necessary? They just expect that the children to come back during festival. They would just expect their children just to call them. But during COVID, during the lockdown, we have the Hari Raya festival in which is also known as the Eid Mubarak, right, to other Muslims people. What happened? We were not allowed to travel. So everybody have an online Hari Raya celebration. And it has to be, otherwise you cannot be connected. Now, that was an experience, and probably to many baby boomers, it was the first time experiencing and trying out. For those who are a little bit more tech savvy, once they have learned it, they will stay and continue to use it. But those who are not so tech savvy, they may or they may not continue. Right now, based on this experience, this group is the group that leap forward the most in adopting technology during pandemic. They are the ones who are also most stressed. Why? Because they have to relearn even simple things like buying groceries, right? Now, after post-pandemic, what happened? They are the most high risk group anyway, right? What happened after when things return to normal? Will they continue? Some may go back because they still prefer the traditional way, the old style. But those who feel that they can move on, they will continue to do the technology, right? So that's what is going to happen. How about Gen X? At the workplace, as I said, right, they are the sandwich. Their mission, generational mission, is to be balanced. The balance here is actually between family and the work as well, right? So because of their characteristics that they are sandwich, this generation, in fact, is very adaptable. They are the most adaptable group. They know what to do. They are agile when they need to see their senior management who are boomers, who are not so technology driven. They know what to do. Things are just done in the old traditional way with certain management, right? But how about their staff who are mostly Gen Y? So this Gen X manager will just adopt and adapt, right? Because my team are the Ys, right? He or she need to be a little bit more flexible. And that's the way how Gen X has been coping and doing their work. Yeah. And what happened here is that Gen X are very pragmatic. They are the pragmatic generation because they know the reality. They know the both sides. They understand, the needs of the baby boomers, and they also know, right, why Gen Y, cannot be so engaged sometimes. So it all depends, right, which category of age you are in. So in this group, there are two types. They are the X-boomers type and they are the XY type, right? So the X-boomers are probably a little bit more old-fashioned, traditional, and during this pandemic, their shift to technology is slightly greater than the XY type who are already tech-savvy. So the impact to the Gen X is medium, yeah? Okay. Then we have the Y. Now everybody knows the Gen Y. At the workplace, right? Well, they have two sides. Why they are called Gen Y? Because there's one category of them who always ask why, and they keep questioning. This is the generation that they want to change and they want to challenge, right? Whatever that's already in place in the old way, old style, right? When everything was still paper. They want to go paperless. In their mind, it can be done through technology, right? Or on the other aspect, are they the whiny type? The whiny type will be the ones, right? They are not so motivated. It's because they are protected and they have gone through only the good things in life. Why? Because actually, when you look at the year born, now I refer this to Malaysia, and to a certain extent, it's also true for US. When they are born in the late 1980s and 1990s, right? Malaysia especially, we went through our golden era where things were good and our country was growing and booming. So there were money to spend. And this is the generation where their parents really spend, put a lot of effort, right? Send them to the best college, provide everything that they can for them. So for those who are ambitious, they will be out there challenging. For those who are not the ambitious type, they are probably not so motivated. Why? Because there is no urgency for them to really come out to work immediately after graduation, because times is different. Right. So how are they coping? Right. In general, they are known to be unfaithful, disloyal, because they just job hop. They are, they actually go more for purpose-driven life. They want to enjoy. They want to know what can they do to contribute to the world or to the environment. They come more from that perspective. So they don't look at money as the most important factor. So that's why there's a lot of Gen Y that have been hopping and they're still hopping, right? So now with this pandemic, right, people are cost cutting, unemployment has grown and all that, right? What is the impact? Now, their impact if we take technology, impact to them is not great at all because they are already in it. It is the change of the mindset, right? Just let me get through it. Okay, it is a change of their mindset that they need to prepare. Why? Because of their background of liking to job hop, of liking to where they look for, being satisfied, being fulfilled, that kind of situation. And because it is not easy to find your next job, they may shift to more stable or secured situation. So they may start to think that, wow, money is important now and I need to stay, although I don't like this current job, although I don't like my bosses. So that can be a shift to the Gen Y. Okay, and let's move on. Then we have the Gen Z, and this is the youngest. And this lady here, Greta Thunberg, do you know who is she? She is a famous environmental activist now, and she became famous almost overnight. And as at today, she's only 17 years old. What she has done is that, she actually fought and created the awareness in the government of Sweden, right, that the government needs to do more for the environment. And as at today, she's been invited to so many mega conferences and speeches, right, to speak. And this is the generation, right, where they are out there and they want to change the world, especially about the environment. They have seen, right, how bad it is. And if no one is doing anything, they just feel that, that's not the future for them. And because of that, this generation will actually strive to work very hard to make the environment better. But how are they coping? Now, if you look at their age, they are still in school. And the biggest changes for Gen Z is education. And almost immediately, what happened? Schools are closed, no more classrooms, and everyone have to move to online. And right, the way to learn now is through screens, logging in. And that is very, very different now. So can you imagine what Gen Z is going through now is something that baby boomers, Gen X and Gen Y may not fathom very much, because we went through the classroom, right? Although Gen Y to a certain level that they have learned technology, but they learn through the classroom during the formative years. But now we have the Z. They have probably, right, moving forward, I'm not too sure when can the classroom be open. Even if it's reopened, it will not be the same, right? School activities, everything has to change. So the impact on them, right, how to interact, how to learn, is something that, other generations may not be able to understand very clearly, right? So this is the generation which now, whatever that they're going through now in terms of the education, we will only see them, right, later when they go into the workplace, and how, they are applying what they have learned, and how they are dealing, with all the interpersonal skills. But in general, this generation, actually what's happening now is that they actually understood a lot, and they look for security and stability, and they are realists. They know all the things that are happening around them. Okay, if you just look at history, when in US, right, 9/11, right, they were still a baby. Not to say that they don't understand. I can tell you, because they are brought up in a situation where people talk about it, so they know, they understand. In US, right, 2008 was the Great Recession. What happened at home? Everything is cut costs. Cost cut, right? And in the Malaysia environment, we went through Asian financial crisis too, right? There are companies who lost jobs, and now the most dramatic one is the COVID-19, right? And they are in school and they understand, right, the changes. So this is the most important factor that has transformed our Gen Z. And one big question, to our future Gen Z, it changes their outlook on what education can be done or how it can be done. Do you really need to really, go to school and go to attend a college to get a degree? Now, degree is important, not to say that it is not important. They probably, look out for other options, other alternatives that they can still continue to study. They may not need to go through, study complete, then to come out and look out for a job. They can even start to work and be an entrepreneur now, right? There are many who are doing it already while they are still small and young, and at the same time study. And the way of studying is very, very different. Okay, whatever it is, I've talked a lot about generation, but the key thing here is everybody has the same vital instinct, no matter what generation that you come from. It is how they display the instinct that is different. It is how they want things to be done that is different. Okay, now I take the example education. If you ask someone, right, for example, like me, I can answer you education. How was my education during my time? It was a paper and pen. I have to write, to take notes, right? I have to attend classroom. If I miss my class, what do? I have to ask my friends, right? What has the teacher taught, in the class? And I have to borrow notes and have to copy the notes. Agree with me? Do you remember that? Right? Then photocopy machine came in, right? Then you don't need to copy word by word, you just photocopy it. And then, right, Gen Y came in. What happened to Gen Y now? How do they study? They type or they just screenshot. Now, everybody still needs to study. It's just the way that they do it, it is so, so different, right? So that is just to give you an example. And what are the critical factors to engage different generation in a workforce, right? Now, what I want to say here is the workplace now is about new normal, right? And after hearing my explanation, you will realize different generation reacts differently towards the new normal, yeah? And the one size fits all in the HR strategy would not work. So for the HR moving forward, you need to think about this, right? And have different strategies to suit different generation. Yeah. And how about your company's Internet of Things? Are they in place? Now, the key question here is, even if you are not changing or upgrading any of your computers or digital stuff, you are okay with the baby boomers. Gen Y may not like it. They may not feel engaged when things are still done the old way. To me, moving forward, right, and we have looked at it, right, people no longer, not to say no longer, they want to employ less. Everything is trimmed. And definitely it is about engaging using all the internet. And as you and I know, different generations have different level of adoption and adaptation towards the internet and the technology. So have you considered that as one point? And last, most important, are you ready for the coming of the Gen Z? Because they will be the most critical one, because they are the ones that have used and understood, the technology. They study using technology. And now if they come up to work for you, right, what is the level of technology and how are you going to communicate with them? This is a very critical issue, right, moving forward and in dealing with the young generation. Right, now this is a little bit background of me, which already been shared. If you have any questions, I would like to take it. Dr. Sanjeev?
Yeah, really. So
Yes.
phenomenal session, Lily. I think you very widely touch upon all the aspects of the different generations, starting from baby boomers of uh, 60s to people born in even in the year 2000. So I think it's a phenomenal insight, basis your research. And now I will be looking at some of the questions which are coming in. Um let me see if there are any questions. Let me put up my question first, Lily,
Yep.
before
Yep. Yep.
anybody else asks. There is a comment which is coming in. I will just read out the comment for you. It is from Joe V. He says that super topic because COVID-19, old generation baby boomers and Gen X and Gen Y become cute baby, cute kid. Ha ha ha.
Uh,
Technology make them still productive. So I think it's a very, very good endorsement of your points which you mentioned.
yep. Yep.
I would like to ask one question, Lily. Is you mentioned about all these generation. In your view, and basis your research and insight, which generation can be a bridge between a different generation, in order to effectively implement a productive work culture or productive work environment? Which can be the pioneer generation to do that?
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sanjit. That's a very, very good question. Now, in my opinion, right, I said that Gen X is a sandwich. In fact, they are the best bridge. Yeah,
Agreed.
and X is the generation that are agile in the way of the thinking. They because they were born right in the era right where lots of changes is happening. They have seen the old style. Yeah,
Right.
the ways before technology came in. They were born before that, and they knew how it was. And they have when technology came in, they have seen the changes.
Right.
So
Right.
this is right, and a lot of them are highly educated, right? And being at the management level and all that, this generation has the best understanding actually.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent. I think you very rightly put. So
yeah. So
any
go
yeah,
ahead.
carry on.
No,
Carry on,
so
carry on.
so when you say that in doing the cultural transformation, right? I would think they would be the generation, right, that would be good to lead, but in terms of really being dynamic or not, that you may need a Y to be there, right? Because they have all this, knowledge on technology and all that. But not to say that Gen X have no knowledge. It's just that they. Okay, I always give the example, right? IT manager,
Right.
right? If this IT manager who is in the age of 40s, he studied IT, yeah,
Right.
compared to a social media guy who did not study IT, but he just takes social media and he is a social media marketer. He only know how to use as a user.
Right.
Yeah, who is the why, right? Right now,
Right.
what happens
Right.
to this IT manager? To him, IT is his profession and it is a job.
Right.
Right? It's just a job that he's doing, but he does understand. Would he really apply and live and breathe IT, social media? May or may not be. But the young social media guy, he may not understand all the technical aspect behind, but social media is the life.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Absolutely agreed.
So that's
Correct.
the difference. That's the difference. Yeah. But he does understand that. He does understand that, right? It's just that he may not live the way. Of course, baby boomers will struggle a little bit, right? He or she may not see, the fun in going to Facebook, for example, right? But he understands Facebook, but he does not see the need. Why should he go into Facebook, for example? Yeah.
Yeah.
But the ex
Absolutely.
was still going to Facebook, and some are pretty good in social media. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent insight, Lily. One more point I just want to ask you because audience would also be, I think, looking for that. If you have to give, say, one experiential advice or a tip or a coaching input for all the generations from boomers to the Gen Z in terms of remain productive and efficient in current crisis or a current situation and sustain this productivity? What all these generations should be doing commonly?
Okay. Um, the key thing here is that, as I said, right, every generation reacts very differently. Yeah.
I agree.
Now, working from
But
home.
they are in the same organization, so
Yeah.
same place. So they're a team with
Yeah.
all the generation there. So if I
Yeah.
have to be productive,
Yeah.
uh, what one thing they need to do? While the Zen X you mentioned should be the pioneer and the leader to lead the entire team of very heterogeneous mix of generation. So in order to ensure the productivity in current time and in post-COVID time, what one thing they should be emphasizing on or focusing on?
Okay, to answer and pinpoint to one could be a little bit difficult, right? What I would say, right? Everybody is connected through
Yeah,
online. Yeah.
yeah,
To the Y and the Z, totally no issue because that's the way that things have been for them in that manner, and they are fine. Yeah. Baby boomers may have some challenges. They
right.
can meet you, have discussion, in Zoom or whatever, right? But they still prefer that face-to-face element to a certain extent.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Right.
There is a very interesting question coming, Lily, for you
Yeah.
from Shantaram Sonamane, and
Yeah.
he's asking you, can Gen Y will be more proactive in taking steps than others?
Yes, Mr. Shantaram, right? I believe when you wrote this question, it is out of frustration that you have with Gen Y. I mean, this is an assumption made by me, right? Now, to answer you, yes,
Absolutely.
they can be proactive. The question here is that how do you engage them? To engage Gen Y is very different from the way that you need to engage a baby boomer. A
Right.
baby boomer, right? How do you engage them? Go talk to them, see them face to face, build relationship. At least that happens in my culture. Building relationship is very important to a baby boomer, right? Have
Absolutely.
the respect for them because
Mhm.
they were born, in the era of hierarchy, and they believe in hierarchy and they want to maintain hierarchy. Yeah,
Phenomenal.
but you have
Phenomenal.
this Y here who don't. To them, hierarchy is like, what is this, right? To them it's like, everybody's equal and all that. So that actually became an issue between the Gen Y and the baby boomer. So, Mr. Shantaram, right? My point of answer, it also depends what generation do you think you are in. Because if you have an issue dealing with the Y, right, it could be they do not understand where you're coming from, and you are in a different generation from them. To engage a Gen Y, to make them more proactive, you have to give them freedom, you have to give them flexibility, and if you control them too strictly, it's not going to work.
Right.
It's not going to
Absolutely.
work. They
I
won't
fully agree.
feel engaged with you. They like things to be fun. So your work environment must be fun too. You cannot say that 9 to 5 sharp. If you create your office into a cafe style and say that you can come in, log in anytime, I can tell you this Gen Y probably will want to come to your office rather than spend the money and stay at Starbucks. They are a
Interesting.
very different breed. You need to understand their mindset.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I think you very nicely touch upon. I think Shantaram would be definitely agreeing to it. He himself being a Gen Y. um, I think one thing which I would like to add to your entire insightful session, Lily, is that as a one thing which all the generation needs to emphasize as a work practice, or which can also create a culture, is empathy. I think
Yes.
that's very, very critical because everybody needs to understand the context and the perspective of each generation, and the kind of unique style with which they work. And once you have empathy as one of the value or a practice in the organization place, I think there would be much more harmony, much more synergy, much more trust, much more respect, much more collaboration going forward.
Exactly, Dr. Sanjeev. So what I do in my training workshops is that, right, I have different programs that cater to different generations, right?
Right.
What I propose, right, for example, if the management consists more of baby boomers and Gen X, then my key factor here is to make them understand the needs of Gen Y.
Right.
Yeah. And if you have a young company like startups, right, who are mostly Gen Y creating it, then I would always encourage them, please, understand your customers who are baby boomers and all that. What do they need? Their needs are not exactly the same as yours. So I also create another session to make them understand the needs of baby boomers and Gen X.
Super.
Right? The needs can be, management styles, leadership styles. Everybody is very different. Very
interesting. Yep. I think I will taking the last comment for your session by Kumar Sanmugam. He's saying, I agree. I'm experiencing that with our Generation X CEO. Once I appointed him, he was able to bridge the gap between different generations. So I think it's the endorsement of your point. Phenomenal.
Okay. Thank you, Kumar. Yeah.
So thank you, Lily. I think it was an awesome session to set the tone for the day. So you have set the tone, phenomenal tone, Lily, and we'll see you again.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.